Welcome. It's indisputable. I'm your host, Rashad Ritchie. Good to be with you. We have a lot on the agenda today. Breaking down news of the day, none other than Mr. Jamie Lowe. Always fascinating to have his brilliance on the program. Top story of the day. Would you believe it? Somebody of high-ranking judicial position, a judge, decides to berate another individual, and according to the allegation, goes full racist. There's a video of the incident.
Hey, you stop right when I'm backing out.
Sir,
Are you an
hadn't
idiot?
even stopped yet.
No, you
We
didn't.
weren't even parked yet. We weren't even parked
We hadn't
yet.
even put in park yet.
We were still in
It
drive.
doesn't matter. We hadn't
can't even
even
tell
put
what
in
the
park.
is. Look.
We hadn't even
Look,
been
it's
put in park
sideburns.
yet.
Look.
We
It's called
hadn't
hair.
even been put in park.
The same sideburns you have
You
connected to
stop
your
right
face.
behind me. You're getting a call.
I don't
I'm
care.
going to
It's a
get you
female.
fired. I'm going to get you fired.
Why are you
Spitting,
spitting?
you
This
nasty
is. Oh my God, you're disrespectful. Oh my,
Go,
this is
get in the
assault.
car.
This is assault. This is a.
Camera.
No,
It's okay 'cause it's all on camera.
don't say sorry. It's too
Yes.
late. Y'all both spit.
Yes, it's all on
Y'all, yes, you did. We watched you
It's
spit.
all on-
We
it's
watched you
all on
spit.
camera, so it's fine.
I'm calling
That's
Amazon.
fine.
Go
Call.
ahead and call.
Call,
Cause
sir.
the
Go.
wreck.
No one wrecked.
Sir, we didn't cause a wreck. We hadn't even been put in park yet.
Hey, no.
Sir,
I'm going to call.
go ahead and call. Go ahead and call, and I guarantee I'll still be here. I'll guarantee I'll still be here.
Put up the picture full mass. For those who are keeping note, an accident does not equate to criminal behavior. It's an accident. You have not formed criminal intent. However, if you decide to actively, launch a projectile out of your mouth towards somebody, that is a crime because criminal intent was formed. Cell phone video captured Parker County Judge Pat Dean and his son Gary Patrick Dean Jr. berating the drivers during a delivery in Hudson Oaks. This was in November 2025. Miss Latirsa Thrower and Janae King said they were making a delivery in the Hudson Oaks suburb just outside of Fort Worth. This happened back in September. They almost got into an accident, almost. They said they almost collided with someone backing out of their driveway. But after the vehicles missed each other, they continued ahead to find the address of their delivery. What ensued was a road rage confrontation with Judge Dean, and they discovered was driving the car that had just left the driveway. Quote, he was just screaming, "I'm going to get you fired. I'm going to get you fired. Y'all need to pay attention. Y'all almost caused a wreck," end quote. And we're like, quote, "No, we didn't cause a wreck, sir. Just calm down," end quote. Ms. Thrower told CBS Texas, quote, "You stopped right when I was backing out. Are you an idiot?" Judge Pat Dean said in the video obtained by CBS Texas, his son Gary Patrick Dean Jr. also intervened only to escalate the situation. Both women say he started calling them derogatory names, racial slurs, and even making offensive statements regarding their gender. Quote, "You can't even tell what this B word is. Look at those sideburns," Dean Jr. said in the footage. Now you may be wondering, why is this personal encounter so important? Well, one, he's a judge. His job is to be non-biased. His job is to have a non-biased perspective as it relates to person and privilege. But if his bias is evident in an encounter that doesn't even create an accident, if his bias is evident in such a routine encounter, obviously this individual serves from the space of bias would be the natural conclusion. So the footage also shows the judge's son spitting at both drivers. That's a criminal offense in every jurisdiction. If intentional, it is criminal. The women said Dean was in their personal space, spitting as he yelled, which they don't believe was deliberate. However, they say his son's actions were intentional. Quote, most of the confrontation was coming from his son, not him. And from my perspective, as far as the judge, I don't believe that he spit intentionally. It was more so just being irate. These are very benevolent women, King said. I guess his mouth foaming up and he spit unintentionally. And once we acknowledge that he spit, the son took that as a reason to go ahead and then intentionally spit. They gave the son a pass on the first potential criminal offense, but then he intentionally engaged in a criminal offense once he decided to do it with, well, we will call that malice, allegedly. There's more. In a police report, in the official police report of the incident, officers wrote that they saw Dean Jr. spitting at the women. Now, this is an interesting development, right? They saw the judge's son doing what? Committing criminal assault. There's more. They saw the judge's son, Dean Jr., spitting at the women in the footage. His father denied it, said, oh, no. Don't let your eyes trick you, officer. Quote, I never saw any of that. No one spit on anyone. Judge Dean said, even though the cops have seen it. The judge added that he thought the delivery drivers might have damaged his car as he was backing out, which is why he confronted them. He doesn't believe he or his son did anything wrong, but admits the situation could have been handled differently. Quote, I take responsibility for some of the arguing back and forth, Dean said. I should have just walked away. End quote. However, both women believe Dean abused his power by threatening to have them fired. They have filed assault charges against his son. Quote, I feel like consequences are required for your actions, and him as a judge, he should know that, King said. The confrontation happened on Ms. Thrower's first day on the job as she was shadowing Ms. King. She soon left Amazon after the incident. King still works for the company. I'll put up the judge. Judge Dean has been a county judge for 3 terms. And Judge Dean here is seeking re-election in March for the good people of Texas to be aware of this. Let's look at what has happened. The officers saw the footage. So much so that the judge had to tell them they did not see what they saw. But they saw the footage. The women who now have to make a criminal complaint, they are being forced to do so because the responding officers did not do their job. It's called selective prosecution. Selective prosecution begins with the responding officer. That's where it begins. So this case in another community would have been clear-cut. You decide to spit on somebody, officers can clearly see that you've done this, you get arrested, you go to jail, you get a summons. But absolutely nothing happened. Also, according to the women, no accident occurred, and according to the information that we have currently, the police report does not indicate an accident occurred. So when Judge Dean decided to lie to the officer and say damage was done, well, that's obstruction of justice. There's an investigation as to what happened. You lied to the police. That is misdemeanor obstruction. Very simple. It's not difficult to analyze. But because his name is Judge Dean, his son gets away with spitting on others, according to the report, according to the narrative. Now, isn't it ironic that the judge was holding these women accountable, while at the same time releasing all accountability from him and his son. All right. Jamie, thoughts here, brother?
Well, first off, if the situation had been reversed, if one of these women had spit or not spit on the judge or his son, there would have been the quickest investigation that you ever saw in your life. They would have been booked. And I don't even know if their side of the story would have been taken. Also, the situation reversed. I was thinking that these women, as you were describing, how judicious they were in describing the son's activities, they have the temperament of being a judge more so than this judge. I would rather these women be a judge in the case that I had than Judge Dean. Some people have a hard time coming to grips with coping with the fact that they do not control the universe, that everyone does not answer to their beck and call. And it's particularly egregious among people who are in elected positions. So I think the people of Texas need to pay extra attention to this man and how he behaves. When someone shows you who they are, you better believe them. So if he's acting like this in the street when he doesn't have any power over anything, imagine how awful he must be behind the bench when he's wearing a robe, when he is in control of that environment. So I can only imagine how terrible it would be to be practicing before him or be unfortunate to have a case before him, because he clearly does not have the temperament to engage in what I would call judicious activity, where you have to be on an even keel, and certainly not making excuses for people just because they happen to be related to you or look like they could be related to you, like that teenage affluenza judge that let that, I believe that teenager got away with rape because he looked like he could be a son. So it's a new day in America, I think. It's 2026. We can no longer be putting up with tolerating this sort of behavior from our elected officials.
Yeah. And just a reminder, the judge is the one who escalated the entire thing. It was a big nothing burger. No accident happened. The ladies had continued with their delivery, but the judge decided to make it into something else. All right, we'll bring you updates as they come. For those who say, well, there's no real racism coming from the White House, I want you to show them this. Put it up full mass. Interesting social media history of white supremacist posts from the White House. The Trump administration continues to give a nod to right-wing neo-Nazi extremism by making and posting racist images online. This isn't the first time they've done something so explicit to give a wink and a nod to white supremacy or white supremacist verbiage. It's very clear a regular thing for them. It's a very clear and regular thing for them. And I want to show you the most recent post from yesterday. So it says, the White House posted a cartoon to X. This was on Wednesday, of 2 Greenlandic mush team and 3 huskies each, pointing towards the choice of the white pillars and the South Lawn, or a tempestuous scene by the Great Wall of China and Red Square in Russia. According to Heidi Berates, co-founder of the Global Project Against Hate, quote, "This is a key concept in neo-Nazi and white supremacist subculture. Western man is code for white man. And one of the most popular racist books in these subcultures is Which Way Western Man, which has been featured in a Department of Homeland Security post celebrating Manifest Destiny. Quote, "It's absolutely shocking to see such images beyond being deployed by this administration. The idea appeals to racists and white supremacists who think only white people should be in positions of power." And again, this is not new. The Trump administration has been doing this since the beginning of Trump's second term. It's an issue because Trump's most radicalized followers on X and Truth Social are willing to be violent, as we have seen. And the administration appears to be prioritizing approval from extremely online reactionaries over the everyday American. Here are some examples of neo-Nazi propaganda straight from the government. Adolf Hitler's regime famously advertised its rule with the tagline, quote, "One people, one realm, one leader." 3 days after Renee Good's killing, Trump's Department of Labor tweeted, quote, "One homeland, one people, one heritage. Remember who you are, American." On January 9th, the Department of Homeland Security posted, quote, "We'll have our home again," a lyric from an anthem adopted by the neo-fascist group, the Proud Boys, and other white nationalist organizations. This was accompanied by a link where one could sign up to join what? ICE. There's more. Why is this administration choosing to be so openly fascist? Vox reporter Eric Levitz explains a potential reason, saying the simplest explanation for the administration's actions is that it is full of authoritarian white nationalists who see propagandizing for a more racially pure United States and empowering ICE to brutalize its enemy as sacred missions. The political cost of these endeavors may seem negligible relative to the ideological principles at stake. Basically, their ideology has become a religion. Politics has trumped, no pun intended, Jesus. You see that in the Christian evangelical movement, where you have individuals who openly will say, who are pastors of a Christian church, that likely Jesus would not be allowed in their church because he wasn't white. There's so much here, but it gives you a clear idea of the direction this one man and his cronies would like to take this nation. It also gives you a clear idea of what you're fighting. Now, for those who are not racist, you should fight against this regime, against the ideology, against the imagery. I had a great opportunity today to stand right next to Dr. Bernice King, Dr. King's daughter. We kicked off our global summit today in the city of Atlanta. And we talked about the great call for all of us to engage in the spirit of cooperation. But we have engaged in the spirit of self-interest. But the spirit of cooperation is a spirit that gets us to the next level of our human existence, not the spirit of only self-interest. So while we live an individualized life, we live inside of a collective, and that collective is important. So you see clearly that the administration is not concerned about the collective of what the world actually is. That's how the world was given to you. That's the world God designed if you believe in a maker. If you don't believe in a maker, that's the world you inherited. That's the way nature made it. Nature did not make it for one group to be supreme over another. All right, Jamie, thoughts here?
You know, it humored me when one quote was analyzing, well, why is it that the administration is doing this? Some sort of political calculus? No, it's because they're racist. They say racist things because they are racist. Especially President Trump himself. He envisions a world, he envisions America, where the only people that are relevant are the people that look and sound like him and believe like him. He's not doing this as some sort of political calculus to gain points. He doesn't care about the people below him in any kind of context. And they are recruiting these people for ICE specifically because they want a more brutal force of folks who have a similar racist ideology. And it's a relatively simple calculus. The only difference between now and what used to happen when they used to wait till after work to put the hood on and march in the Klans rather with their faces obfuscated. Now they've taken off the hoods and now they're just doing it right in the open. They put down the dog whistle and picked up a foghorn. And they're daring us to challenge them. And I think I did an episode on Revelation Q recently about ICE, how, he started off with this notion that we're going to get the violent, undocumented immigrants out who are sent here from insane asylums or whatever nonsense he made up. And that has tracked, and now we're just blatantly shooting people in the streets who may or may not be United States citizens. We don't care. You have ICE agents who are getting caught on video saying racial epithets, and this is the context that's created when you got a Supreme Court that says it's perfectly acceptable to use race as probable cause on his face. So this is definitely the America he envisioned, and he didn't do it because he's making a calculation. He did it, like I said, because that's what he has in his core, and he's done a better job this administration. Better job for his purposes of surrounding himself with people who share this terrible racist core.
Yeah. And you don't have to necessarily put the shoe on your foot for the footprint to either help you or harm you. If you are a white supremacist, you don't necessarily have to shout white supremacy in order for the footprint of white supremacy to help you. And it works the other way. That if you're not for it, that means that the footprint will somehow adversely impact you. So here's what I'm saying. This is coming down to the people that are either for it or against it. There is no silence. Either for it or against it, because the footprint of it has taken a hold in such a way that it is undeniable. And it must be addressed, and it must be addressed consistently. We'll bring updates as updates develop from the White House and their racist post. Okay, well, do you remember this guy? We talked about him on Indisputable. ICE prosecutor had a racist account, put him up for a mass. He was investigated because of his racism. James Jim Rodden, okay? According to the allegation, he runs a racist account on X. He was under investigation. He has now returned to the job. An immigration and customs enforcement prosecutor in Texas who reportedly operates a white supremacist social media account is still working in an immigration court despite calls for an investigation into his online activities. According to the Texas Observer, James Jim Rodden has returned to a workplace in a Dallas immigration court almost a year after the outlet first reported that this prosecutor was the man behind an X account that posted hateful, racist, and anti-Semitic statements. Keep his picture up, Jordan. As a reminder, he's in a position of public trust. He's paid by taxpayer dollars. He must take a position where the bias of racism should not enter into his prosecutorial discretion. How can a man do that when it's so part of a man's bias that he has to create recreational opportunities to engage in racism? The account named Glamour Responder is now set to private, but was known for making a lengthy series of derogatory posts to its 15,000 followers. Some of those posts included statements like, quote, America is a white nation founded by whites. Our country should favor us, end quote. Another quote, all blacks are foreign to my people, dumb Fs, migrants, all criminals, end quote. In addition to posts with apparent praise to Adolf Hitler. On September 28, 2025, the account responded to the question, quote, can anyone point to me exactly where America started going downhill? Question. The account responded, quote, November 6, 1860, the date that President Abraham Lincoln, the president whose administration ended slavery, was elected. That was the answer from this prosecutor's account, who was under investigation, but now is back at his job. An investigation report by the Observer examined the prosecutor's social media history, courtroom activities, biographical information, and public documents, all of which linked the ICE Assistant Chief Counsel to the page. Rodden was pulled from federal immigration court schedule shortly after the report was published. And 3 members of Congress, Mark Vesey, Benny Thompson, and Jamie Raskin, sent letters to the Department of Homeland Security demanding that he be investigated. Mark asserted that the allegations against Rodden, quote, raise serious questions about the integrity of ICE's prosecutorial process and its commitment to impartial justice. Here's the ironic thing. The ironic thing is, a year later, ICE is doing things that are so much more egregious than a racist prosecutor saying racist things. They're actually killing people now, shooting them in the face. They're doing such extreme things that the racist prosecutor doesn't seem as bad compared to the extreme violence that ICE is visiting upon communities all across the nation. So they let the prosecutor come back. Not because they don't care about his racism, but because his racism is aligned to the de facto policy of ICE. There's more. Thompson, who is a ranking member on the U.S. House Homeland Security Committee, wrote that the account's activities violate ICE's code of conduct. Once again, you're dealing with a subculture, not a culture. ICE's code of conduct, and added, quote, anyone making racist statements and suggesting violence against immigrants is unfit to represent the United States government in immigration proceedings. Protests calling for Rodden's firing ensued shortly after at the federal building in Dallas, downtown Dallas precisely. ICE responded to this letter last March, stating that the ICE Office of Professional Responsibility, quote, understands the seriousness of the allegations and will ensure the allegations are addressed appropriately, fairly, and expeditiously. And that typically, quote, OPR administrative investigations are completed within 120 days, end quote. However, it's unclear whether an investigation into Rodden's social activities was completed. He was seen back on the job in recent days. There's also no word from ICE on the status of his employment. This is becoming the norm. It's becoming the norm. The administration does something insane and extreme. There's no accountability. Why is there no accountability? Because this administration did something really unique coming into the White House. But they've been doing it for a while to discredit all of media. Because if they can discredit all of media, which becomes, once again, a de facto wing of the government, a transparency wing of the government that's not government controlled. You are a de facto wing of the government as well. We the people, not government control. They weaken the media so much that the space where you could actually get the information has been so discredited, and large part because of the media itself, that now there's no channel, no opportunity for accountability, or very little opportunity for accountability. This was done intentionally. And now they seem to get away with anything. But not on our watch. Jamie, thoughts here?
You know, a couple things. Just like you alluded to, I mean, they're doing such a good job of flooding the zone with old Charles Barkley trip that it is now hard to pay attention to the guy who just said racist things on a social media platform when you're looking at, okay, somebody getting away with shooting a mother in the face 3 times. It becomes small beans that, well, you're adjacent to Nazism. And what did we expect? Well, the president himself quoted Mein Kampf several times on the campaign trail. He was outright quoting Hitler in public and got cheers from that. So the fact that we have now prosecutors who are saying it more explicitly, that's not the bug, that's the feature. He wasn't hired in spite of his Nazi adjacent propaganda that he was spewing. He was hired because of it. I think if you investigated a number of these prosecutors in similar positions to him, you'd probably find that his opinions are not that unique. He's just the one that was foolish enough to do it publicly and get caught. But I'm sure this type of atmosphere is propagated throughout, not just ICE either. I'm sure it's propagated through the Justice Department as a whole and the Homeland Security. I'm sure it's all, every inch of this federal government that Donald Trump has touched has been poisoned by this level of ideology. I think even in our day-to-day lives, races that we interact with, some of the Karens talked offline about, how Karens are getting progressively more and more racist. It's because he's given permission to everybody who's been in the closet with their hatred and their xenophobia. He says, come out, I'll hire you. I'll give you $100,000 to join ICE and give you a gun. You get 47 days worth of training. And you give you a gun and a mask and you can just be set loose in American towns without any sort of accountability whatsoever. Do what you want to do. You're a prosecutor. You think that Hitler was correct about a couple of things? Sure, we'll hire you. And yeah, we'll put you on suspension for a couple of days when they find out, and then we'll sneak you back in. No harm, no foul. That's the entire theme of Trump 24. Yeah. Project 2025, and we're living it. And it's hard for me to be aggrieved by it as much because we should have seen it coming, and we did. You and I saw it coming. Yeah. The other half of this nation didn't. Yeah. Hopefully they remember that coming this upcoming election.
Yeah. And I want to also remind people there is hope because this is a cycle. This is a cycle. The reason why these individuals have a Hitler to quote is because, well, the cycle was here during the days of Hitler. And this cycle comes. But here's the thing about that cycle. It never wins. Their gains are never sustainable. Why? Because the gain was not gained in love. It was gained in hate, violence, coercion, and fear. And whatever gains you make or whatever changes you can accomplish through those methodologies, you may be able to temporarily create change, but that change will never be sustainable. The only sustainable change will be that which is done through the unity of love. And that's why we fight. All right, we got more on the other side. Indisputable, stick and stay.
I don't care if you're Christian. In fact, I will fight for you to have your religious liberty and practice your Christianity. I believe in that. I don't believe in Christianity, which means that you do not get to dictate the way I live my life based on your religion. I don't care what the Bible says. You have every right in the world. All those women who identify with your religion have every right in the world to not get an abortion, to not take birth control, but they do not have the right to dictate my life and what I decide to do with my body. I don't care about your goddamn religion. I'm so tired of having nonstop conversations about what the Bible says. You live your life in the way that you interpret the Bible. Again, I don't care, but you don't get to take the Bible and tell me, well, the Bible says this in this chapter, in this verse. I don't care. I don't care. I don't believe in it. And I have the right, based on our Constitution, to not believe in it.
Here I am, Nancy Pelosi, saying this country needs a strong Republican Party, and we do.
No one is representing what I call the silent majority, which is about 2/3 of this country, indisputably progressive.
But now we say the time has come for regime change in American television.
The Young Turks Network.
You have the Young Turks saying this is the time to fight for our values.
Young Turks is the oldest left media institution I believe that there is. Real front runner in the online media space.
You guys might know us.
Biggest online left of center outlet that exists.
All of you know the Young Turks.
People from this district heard about Justice Democrats by watching your show.
Thanks to the Young Turks for covering Trayvon Martin's case early on when few people were covered.
They don't stop, I won't stop. Racism won't stop, so I won't stop.
Species are at risk of going extinct. Major media outlets did not dedicate much time at all to that.
We reached a whole heap of people with our progressive message.
We're not the Young Turks, you're the Young Turks.
That 300 million is a pretty good number, Well, that's the size of the US population. You know what our next target is? The size of the entire world.
We just crossed 5 billion views on YouTube.
I mean, imagine 10 years ago thinking one day, we looked at you like, are you nuts?
Young Turks has just passed another milestone. 25 billion lifetime views.
Damn.
Too strong, way too strong. That's 25 billion times someone watched the progressive message delivered to people all over the world. You know who helped to do that? You guys did. Our members and our audience are amazing, and they helped us to reach 2 generations, both millennials and Gen Z. They're both super progressive. And I gotta tell you, we're just getting started. Thank you.
Corruption, injustice, the system is rigged against you. Every day we're blasted by a flurry of terrible news from every angle, which can make it challenging to stay positive and know how to fight back. The Damage Report is your solution. I'm Johnny DeRola, and my daily morning show cuts through the noise and exposes the real damage being done to our country, the world, and how we can fight back against it. Corporate greed crushing workers? We'll name names. Politicians selling you out for their corporate overlords? We've got the receipts. Climate disaster, economic collapse, the rise of fascism. No spin, no establishment talking points, just the truth that you need to survive and resist. But it's not all doom and gloom. We'd love to have you join the Dragon Squad, our community of positive-minded activists who turn the day's news into positive action. With new episodes every weekday, listen to The Damage Report to get honest news, unflinching commentary, and daring coverage you won't find anywhere else. Listen to The Damage Report on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts, because understanding the damage is the first step.
All right, welcome back. Always good to be with you. All right, we got a lot of comments. I'm gonna read as many as I can. Savvy_Dragon says, of course, it's Hudson Oaks, Parker County, Texas, 30 miles west of Fort Worth. And that area quickly becomes Karensville. Yeah. Wang Jun, this is not surprising. The White House is run by Stephen Miller, a guy who watches Schindler's List just for the vibes. Yep. That's correct. Over 9,000 into the dragon. Dude may be a judge, but I believe he could be charged for giving a false statement to the police, right? Correct. It's called obstruction. In the midst of an active investigation, the judge provided false or misleading information. And good stuff. Bubba Franks, the Sword Dragon says, Texas Code of Judicial Conduct 2023, a judge shall act at all times in a manner that promotes public confidence in the independence, integrity, and impartiality of the judiciary. That's right. And Neon Death 07 says, entitlement at its finest. All right. Got something for you. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish Karen would.
You want to call the police on them for having a barbecue on a Sunday.
I feel free! Back off! I'm going to tell an African-American man threatening my life.
Okay, guys, so I never thought I'd see the day, but I'm walking my dog. We're just walking. And we walk past this guy, and he goes, go back to your country. Hey, what did you say back there? I'm just curious. I want to make sure I want to make sure I didn't overhear you. What did you say? Say it one more time.
Go back to your country.
Hell yeah.
Have a good one.
Do we live in a different time?
Who has managed Julian Castro's field team, Joaquin Castro's field team. I have been involved with Gary Bledsoe's campaign,
Good for
chairman
you.
of the NAACP here in Texas.
Good for you, dude.
I ain't racist, but I do want you to all go back to your.
This is a new type of racism, obviously. Put it up full mass. So let me get this correct. She's affiliated with the NAACP, has worked for, well, a few folk that we would consider to be part of the team. She clearly says she's not racist. However, she does want you to go back to your country just because. Racist, actually, this racist male Karen, he spews hatred words at a man walking his dog. The racist was too much of, well, let's just say not a stand-up person, even stay for the fight, immediately walked away after the attack. And the man recording the video, Gapster27, who goes by Gabriel, and decided to call this particular Karen out. I mean, just random racism, it seems. Okay, Jamie, thoughts here?
You know, I do something with the people in my life. It be coworkers or romantic partners. If they are of any race other than my race, I tell them, look, if you ever in a situation where somebody says you're a racist and you fix your mouth to say I have a friend or a boyfriend or a coworker
Right.
who's black, and you thinking of me, you better not. Do not use me to justify anything that comes out your mouth. I am not. My friendship with you is not my blanket statement saying that I don't think that you are racist. And I think I'm hoping they have abided by that, because I think the NAACP of whatever county she's in needs to release a statement soon and to improve their recruitment tools and make sure that they know who they have working for them is who they have working for them. And that, I think my hand raised made me raise something. They hadn't raised their hand, well, whatever. But I'm hoping that's the case. But I think a lot of people need to be issuing a statement. Joaquin, who did she say? Castro?
Yeah.
Representative Castro. He needs to be released a statement immediately to justify it.
Cease and desist quick. All right. Hell of a thing. So a coach, basketball coach, falsely accuses a black child of cheating. This is a hell of a story. Put it up full mass. Natalie Williams, a Miami mother and an early childhood educator, wrote an article for HuffPost detailing how a youth basketball coach accused her son of cheating because he, quote, looked too old. We're going to get into that stigma Here's what Williams wrote about the incident. Last Saturday, she says, at an amateur athletic union basketball tournament in Miami, I found myself doing something no mother should have to do, defending my child against an adult. My son is 11 years old. In the span of 6 months, he shot up from 4 feet, 11 inches to 5 feet, 6 inches. But he is still very much a child, curious, playful, learning how to regulate his emotions, and growing into himself one awkward inch at a time. The world, however, no longer seems interested in seeing him that way. After his 6th grade team won their game, coach from the opposing team approached my son's coach and said, quote, "You cheated," gesturing to my son, who was standing near enough to hear the whole exchange. He said, quote, you've got older kids like this one playing on a 6th grade team. He must be reclassed, end quote. As a mother, my instinct to defend him kicked in immediately. But before I could step in, my son spoke up for himself. Hey, I'm only 11. I'm actually the youngest 6th grade on my team, end quote. This moment wasn't an anomaly. It was a reflection of a larger, well-documented problem. Black children are routinely perceived as older than they actually are. This phenomenon has a name: adultification bias. Research published by the American Psychological Association found that Black boys as young as 10 are perceived as significantly older and less innocent than their white peers of the same age. And as the National Child Development Institute warns, adultification bias, quote, robs Black children of the presumption of childhood, exposing them to harsher treatment, diminished empathy, and adult consequences long before they are developmentally appropriate. In other words, my son's experience on the basketball court wasn't about basketball. It was about perception fueled by racial bias. As a mom, I see this play out far beyond sports. My son is spoken to with more authority, more expectation, and less grace than a white 11-year-old would be. He is expected to, quote, know better, to be more composed, to take on more responsibility, not because of his age, but because of his race. At a recent Christmas party hosted by one of my closest friends, my son was the only one who was asked to carry tables from the house to the yard, despite being surrounded by adults and non-Black children who are older. He wasn't there as help. He was there as a guest and a child. Yet the responsibility landed on him. I have seen this dynamic repeat at my workplace. When my son attends events with me, he does so as my child. And yet he is often asked to carry boxes or assist with setup and breakdown, even when adult staff members are present. What are we talking about? We're not talking about the hyper-aggressive racism. We're talking about the kind that they would call, well, it's non-confrontational, it's subtle, it's implicit, not explicit. It's implied rather than pronounced. It's ingrained, so much so that individuals who would consider themselves to be allied will get caught up in this matrix of racism. And if they are authentic when it is called out, they will grow from it and recognize rather than coil back or default to a defensive pose. This is real. And the reason why it's important is because, as the mother said, it doesn't just start and stop at a basketball game. It permeates through the entire culture of perception as it relates to young Black children. There's more. Put it up. Need I remind you, in 2023, Ralph Yarl, 16-year-old child, was shot after ringing the doorbell at the wrong house in Kansas City, Missouri. Researchers and advocates noted then how adultification bias played into this. Him being perceived as a threat rather than a child, capable of an innocent mistake. The perpetration of violence against Black children for this perception is not a new story. From 17-year-old Trayvon Martin in 2012 all the way back to the abduction and lynching of Emmett Till in 1955, a child. He was 14. And when these tragedies do happen, we then have to watch the adultification bias play out in the court of public opinion and in the actual court system. But those responsible are rarely held accountable. In schools, the pattern is also alarming. Black children are disproportionately disciplined, more likely to be suspended, more likely to be punished more severely than their peers for similar behavior. A disparity researchers link directly to adultification and racialized perceptions of maturity. When Black children are viewed as older, their behavior is more likely to be criminalized rather than corrected. This was also backed by the Department of Education, based on the data they reviewed of their own stats. There's more. This criminalization may eventually bring them into what's called the criminal justice system. That's your school to prison pipeline, where the same adultification bias means they are more likely to be tried as adults in court and to be sentenced to adult institutions. It's also clear from horrifying cases like that of the 12-year-old Tamir Rice, shot by a police officer while playing with a toy gun in a park in 2014, even though the person that called it in said it might be a toy. What can happen when members of law enforcement perceive Black children as adults? The danger of adultification isn't just physical, it's also psychological. As an early childhood professional, I know that consistently treating a child as older than their age creates unrealistic and unhealthy expectations. An 11-year-old, that's 1 year from 10, an 11-year-old is suddenly expected to manage emotions like a 15-year-old. The stakes are met with punishment instead of guidance. Growth is rushed. Innocence is stripped away. What troubles me most about what happened at that basketball game is not that an adult made a mistake, it's how easy it was for him to make it. How comfortable he felt looking at a tall Black boy and assuming deception. How natural it seemed to feel to him to question my son's legitimacy. As parents, especially Black parents, we spend our lives teaching our sons to advocate for themselves while also bracing them for the world that sees them as older, together and less deserving of empathy. If we care at all about equity on the basketball court, at school, and society, we must start by seeing Black children as what they are, children. And like all children, they are deserving of protection, patience, and care. No mother should have to defend her child's right to simply be 11 years old. I'm so thankful that this educator took the time to provide this context and nuance to something that equates to a very dangerous scenario and a very debilitating one for Black children. I remember in my county of DeKalb, when I was 17 years old, the county was already a tough county on everybody. But the state of Georgia passed a new law that made all 17-year-olds adults for one reason, and that was for incarceration. So no longer were 17-year-olds considered juveniles in the state of Georgia if they were arrested. Now, you were a juvenile in every other aspect of living. You could not contract, et cetera, et cetera. But if you got arrested, you were considered to be an adult, and you were prosecuted as an adult, and that was the new law. Why did they make that law? They made that law to criminalize young Black males in particular at an earlier age than 18. That is why it was created. That is still the law in the state of Georgia today. All right, Jamie, thoughts here?
Well, for the moment, I'm thinking, thank God for Georgia, because I think there's one thing that perhaps we in the state of Alabama do that is less egregious. And I think that concludes the list. I have for the past 10 years worked in a juvenile court in the state of Alabama, and I live in a relatively diverse county, so we have some Black prosecutors and some, in fact, the majority of the juvenile probation officers are Black at the moment. But over the past 10 years, I've definitely noticed there are different conversations that we have surrounding our Black juveniles than we do our white juveniles. And it is a more unconscious bias as opposed to an overt racism. But I've had many conversations where I had to remind, like, look, we just had this exact same circumstance not 2 days ago with a person of a different skin color. And it was a different conversation that we're having. But it's not even just the adultification of our children. I mean, it's to tell us all this time, black men we're given these advanced superpowers to justify needing to use excessive force. You had to tase us 48 times in the face because, they tell you, we had 3 or 4 cops on him. He still was resisting arrest. Well, no, he wasn't. He's a person. We're human beings. He's not capable of these extraterrestrial abilities, leaping over small buildings and running a locomotive. And our women are hypersexualized. So, when I was in grade school, there was the issue with dress code and how congruently it was enforced. For Black young ladies who had more shapely, they were definitely harshly punished for things that some of their other counterparts were wearing. So we're hypersexualized. They will make us everything but human beings. So we're not asking for any extra treatment, any better treatment than anybody else. We're just asking to be treated congruently. And you would think in the year 2026 that would not be such a tremendous thing to ask for. But here we are seeing the same things that are being perpetuated for, at this point, centuries. And it gives me great pause, and I'm glad that this young lady is catching it now. And you alluded to it at the beginning of your statement that not all of these people are recognizing that they're doing it. So in my head, I separate races up into buckets, and not all of it is malicious racism, where you think that we're inferior, but some of it you're just not conscious of. Like, you have to catch yourself, and I'm hopeful that as we raise awareness of it, that more people become conscious of it.
Yeah, well said. And for those who may catch themselves doing it, you're not a bad person, especially if you expand into the moment rather than contract into defense. You actually care to grow into a higher version or a higher self than to default to a lower one. All right, we got more on the other side. It's indisputable. Stick and stay.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein?
Rich and powerful men abusing, assaulting, and abandoning young women. These rich and powerful men donate to the politicians in Washington, D.C., play golf with the elites in Washington, D.C. They are foreign leaders who we don't want to offend. They interact with our intelligence agencies that we don't want to disobey. There is something rotten in Washington.
And are people still talking about this guy, this creep?
All those congressmen you just saw there are on the record as protecting the child rapists who were clients of Epstein. They have not prosecuted a single person outside of Epstein and Maxwell.
Yep.
Not one.
Is Trump engaging in this cover-up because he's in the Epstein files?
I don't understand why the Jeffrey Epstein case would be of interest to anybody. It's pretty boring stuff.
So as the government keeps telling us, yeah, there's other people. Yeah, they raped those girls. So what? We're gonna cover up for them. But why are you guys so mad?
A nation that chooses impunity for the rich and the powerful at the expense of our children is a nation that has lost its moral purpose. Are you on the side of the people? Are you on the side of America's children? Or are you on the side of the rich and powerful who've had their thumb on the scales and shafted Americans for decades? The
rest of the news media says you should not fight for positive change. If you do, you're not really a reporter or a journalist, because reporters and journalists don't care what happens. I don't agree. That's not written anywhere. That's not a law. It's just a rule that they invented so that reporters didn't actually challenge the people that are in power. Well, we don't agree with that. We think we should challenge the people in power, that actually makes you a better journalist, not a worse one. In a media landscape poisoned by corporate influence, only one show stands apart from the rest, The Young Turks. As the longest running daily news show on the internet, The Young Turks is an impactful voice of unfiltered truth, one you can trust to deliver the daily news with authenticity and honesty. For nearly 2 decades, TYT has been breaking the mold of media. We're not here to echo the powerful or the elite, we're here to challenge them. Our mission is to give you accurate news, fight the establishment, and cover stories that mainstream media keeps you in the dark about, which matter to your everyday life. We've remained a leader in online news because of our established credibility with an engaged audience looking for alternative media that represents the real concerns of everyday Americans. Listen to The Young Turks, a news show that only answers to you on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Been on YouTube for 20 years.
The original political partner on YouTube, The Young Turks.
The Young Turks.
The Young Turks.
Godfather of independent media.
Favorite news platform by far. Oh, it's not even close.
The Young Turks. It's the largest online news show in the world.
I watched you guys before I had a channel at all.
So. And I watched Cenk, so Cenk's really the start of it all.
Big shout out to Cenk from Young Turks.
Cenk Uygur, founder of TYT, a man who probably needs no introduction.
Cenk, so great to talk to you.
Great to talk to you, David.
Fan you worked for a long time, man.
Anna Kasparian is one of the most followed and influential progressive women online.
I love Anna.
Your presence has been essential for me to really grow.
Do all of you know the Young Turks? This is why what Young Turks are doing is so important.
I've watched you for many years. You are insightful. I thank you for that.
I was going to introduce myself, but it sounds like you guys might know us.
All right, welcome back. Always good to be with you. Let me read a few of these comments. Next to your reporter, they are the racist, but people. I'm not racist, but that's right. They are the racist, but people. Miss Femininity 9195. This is sad. My son is 11 and has been treated the same. That's right. It is sad. And that's correct. Robert Tables. Children don't have a choice about how they come into the world. You hear? That's right. Correct. And Octo Squiddies, I ain't racist. Always the prerequisite before saying some absolutely racist-ish. There you go. All right. Okay. GOP representative exposed for wanting white-only schools. And the spin of the response is insane. Let's put her up full mass here. Now that's a Karen. OG Karen right there. Republican Representative Kristen Noble has been exposed for alleged racist comments in a Signal chat. Those chats were allegedly of her endorsing the idea of segregated schools. The hell is going on? We already decided this. Separate but equal was not separate but equal. She allegedly claimed that segregation would bring higher test scores. I want you to keep that up for a moment. This is a person that has a fundamental misunderstanding of what education is about. K through 12 education and even higher education is not simply about curriculum. It's not simply about the academy or academics. It's also about learning how to be a decent human being, learning how to live in a multicultural context, learning how to develop a gift and make it make sense for you and those around you. It's a little bit more than just test score. You don't go to school to get high test scores. You go to school to learn something in an academic, social, and hopefully developmental context. She wants white schools for test scores, okay? So a statement on behalf of Republican Representative Kristen Noble of Bedford did not deny a Granite Post report regarding leaked signal chats supporting, quote, segregated schools, but talked about segregating Republicans from Democrats and other hot button issues. Okay, we want unity, they want separation. We want peace, they want chaos. What's new? Now, the response from the Republican Party, the spin is quite extreme. So she's not responding. She's too much of a coward to do so. So the Republican office emailed a press release on her behalf that said, quote, "It's funny." That's the first. It's funny to watch the Democrats feign outrage when I thought they'd be supportive of managing their own schools with libraries full of porn, biological males and girls sports, and bathrooms, and as much DEI curriculum as their hearts desire. Schools like that will have terrible test scores because they focus on social issues, justice, rather than academics. Now that is a hell of a troll response. Now that's a troll, okay? Another quote, Republicans have been self-segregating out of the leftist indoctrination centers for decades. If Democrats had their own schools and we had our own, families would need to avail themselves of the wildly successful Education Freedom Account program. It's a win-win proposition. I mean, this is propaganda right here. It's so damn sad. These individuals are trying to hold on to the last element of hatred, bigotry, and racism that they can because they are afraid to compete, ladies and gentlemen. They are afraid of an even playing field. They are afraid of fairness. They are afraid of giving you the chances that they have had. They are afraid because they know that much of their success did not come earned. It came inherited. They know that much of their promotion did not come earned. It came by privilege. And they know this. You don't even have to go deep down in their heart. It's right there on the surface. They don't want you to have it. They don't want you to have benefits like they have. And they know if you even the playing field, because of the work and the sacrifice and the spirit that could not be broken that you have, you would run circles around them if the playing field was even. They know that. Jamie, thoughts here?
First of all, she should teach a master class and spin. I haven't seen a pivot like that. I'm gonna give her credit for that, but I'm immediately take it away because she was a dumbass to put it in writing to begin with. I don't know why all these people on signal chats and whatever put all this stuff in writing. You learn, don't put anything in writing you can deny. And you didn't say nothing about Democrat Republican. You said white.
Right.
And racism, and I think we have to start giving it this kind of spin. It is caustic. It's sort of like Mason somebody. I don't know if you've ever maced anybody, but if you mace somebody, you mace yourself a little bit. And so allowing racism to perpetuating our society is a negative thing. I want a doctor, I want a lawyer, I want a teacher, I want a plumber who went to school and had to compete with all types of people, not just a hand-selected group. I want a doctor who has learned from all types of people and not just a hand-selected group of racially, in their head, superior group. I want, like you said, I want a person who has been trained and competed with as many people as humanly possible.
Yep, there you go. Well said. We'll bring you updates as updates develop. All right, Donald Trump has threatened to use the Insurrection Act. Put it up full mass. This has not been used since 1992 for good reason, by the way. So Trump threatens to invoke the Insurrection Act against Minneapolis while ICE continues to terrorize communities and even murder an innocent woman. Trump is considering the Insurrection Act. This would allow him to put U.S. military on American streets. Trump made the announcement on Truth Social. If the corrupt politicians of Minnesota don't obey the law and stop the professional agitators and insurrectionists, he's talking about Americans, by the way, peaceful protesters, from attacking the patriots of ICE, who are only trying to do their job, I will institute the Insurrection Act, which many presidents have done before me, and quickly put an end to the travesty that is taking place in that once great state. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President DJT. Mass protests have erupted throughout Minneapolis since ICE agent Jonathan Ross fatally shot a local resident, Ms. Good, whom the Trump administration smeared after her death as a domestic terrorist. Was this always the plan? And so Melanie D'Arrigo, executive director of the Campaign for New York Health, says she thinks so. The Insurrection Act was always the plan, according to Melanie. And Minneapolis is the test case. They sent ICE in to terrorize and attack Black and brown communities to provoke a response that would then justify deploying the military domestically in blue cities. This has never been about immigration. We talked about this on Indisputable a while ago, that the ICE enforcement policy was never about immigration. And if you say nothing as they are knocking on your neighbor's door, you won't have neighbors to say anything when they're knocking on yours. So now you see them knocking on everybody's door. This was not about immigration. There's more. The Insurrection Act has not been used since 1992, when President George H.W. Bush invoked it at the request of then Governor Pete Wilson. That was the California governor, to quell riots that had broken out in Los Angeles after a jury acquitted police officers who were caught on camera ruthlessly beating Rodney King. As protests continue in Minneapolis after the murder, Trump is now considering sending ICE to Maine, but Governor Mills is not having it. Take a listen to what she said.
Look, Maine knows what good law enforcement looks like, because our law enforcement are held to high professional standards. They undergo substantial professional training, and they are accountable to the law. And I'll tell you this, they don't wear a mask to shield their identities, and they don't arrest people in order to fill a quota. To the federal government, I say this, if your plan is to come here to be provocative and to undermine the civil rights of Maine residents, do not be confused. Those tactics are not welcome here.
The irony of it, Republicans, conservatives, they used to be the party that said less federal government and more local government, more local control of government, especially law enforcement. And now they have a president that occupies the White House, flies the Republican banner, who literally is utilizing the federal government in order to take authority away from state and local governments all across the nation. The irony of it, once again. And let me be 100 with every state, with every local jurisdiction. it's great that you have professional law enforcement. We want you to have that. We want you to have good, corrupt-free law enforcement. This may come down to manpower. You see, right now, the federal government, i.e. ICE, they don't have the manpower to go against Chicago PD, cops in Maine, etc. They don't have the manpower. Not yet. Not yet. How are they hoping to get the manpower? By loose recruiting. So they have decided to relax some of the prerequisites to become an officer of ICE in order to increase their numbers, because it may just come down to manpower. And if that be the case, I'm reminding all states again, you have constitutional authorities invested in you. And part of that constitutional, or those constitutional authorities, those multiple elements of the Constitution at your disposal, you are empowered. You are empowered to relax laws if you need to for the sake of recruitment too. Now, I wouldn't go as far as hiring individuals like the administration would hire. But I think it's fair to consider. Now you have local police chiefs having to say clearly they will arrest federal agents in their jurisdiction. This is unheard of, but substantiated by court rulings back in the 90s. Cops can do so. This is one of the tools at your disposal, has to be utilized. My point is, you can't leave anything on the table in this kind of conflict, because he's showing you clearly where he's headed. Okay. Maine Governor Janet Mills was among the leaders in the state who addressed reports late Wednesday that the Trump administration plans to send federal agents, including those with U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, to cities such as Portland and Lewiston, and said unequivocally that the violent masked officers have unleashed on Minneapolis in recent days will not be welcomed by residents and officials. Trump has largely been targeting the Somali population in Minnesota amid a social services fraud scandal in the state in which some Somali people have been charged and convicted. He has called for all Somali immigrants to leave the U.S. on Tuesday. Trump said the Somali scams had happened in Maine too. Maine has a significant Somali community, including many people who have become U.S. citizens. The population is largely centered in Lewiston and Portland. According to people familiar with the administration's plan, immigration operations in Maine were, quote, being designed to arrest and detain Somali refugees for reviews that could last around 30 days in, quote, Jamie, I know you see the play.
Yeah, and I find it even comical that he's bothered researching which laws he could assert to get the military involved in domestic cities, because what difference does it make? He's already treating ICE like a paramilitary force without any sort of much of a check on his excessive overreach in federal authority. I would say so. They shut down the investigation in Minnesota. They said, we're just not comply with local law enforcement. And this kind of issue spits in the face of federalism. That ICE agent committed a crime in Minnesota. He should be under the jurisdiction of the Minnesota law enforcement. They should have arrested him for violating, and he also violated several federal crimes as well. You don't get to shoot somebody in the face 3 times as a federal agent without that being a crime. But they're unmasked, they're masked, unbadged, brown shirts in the street. So why is he even bothering, pretending like our government is still a functional situation? I mean, essentially, he has loosed them on whatever city he wants to, and they're ratcheting up their violence systematically and exponentially. When they're not shooting us in the face, they're snatching up random people in the streets, taking them captive and just dropping them off. I mean, there was I can't remember what state it came out of, but they essentially kidnapped a Target worker. He was a white man. He said something that they didn't like or didn't answer a question that they didn't like. He snatched him up, dropped him off somewhere else just because. And I don't know how much worse Donald Trump intends for it to get, I suspect substantially, but he's already doing it. We're here. The nightmare that we all predicted in 2024 when he got reelected is here. This is what it looks like. There are no more subtle, slight ratcheting up of fascism. He's just jumped feet first into it.
Right. Yeah. And he has multiple years to go.
Right.
Other side of this. All right. We got more on the other side. Indisputable, stick and stay. Indisputable is still the fastest growing news show in America compared to CNN, Fox News, and 30 other networks. We tell the truth on Indisputable because the truth is indisputable. We go places that other news media outlets refuse to go. When there were human rights abuses happening at the Victorville prison, guards and members of the community contacted us.
You, through your investigative reporting, unearthed very troubling allegations about specific forms of abuse and discrimination in the federal prison system.
It really doesn't take much to be a trusted voice. All it takes is to be fearless, report on matters, be an advocate. I called it the bullpen intentionally because it's a place of preparation. We present individuals who may have an opposing view, so we debate. Sometimes we interview individuals because their stories deserve to be heard. A survivor of significant police misconduct and his attorney. We covered this story earlier, and to remind you of the horror of one man being shot at damn near 100 times by the police. We take time on this show to showcase the temper tantrums of Karens in the wild. We do this not because we want to see people's emotional outbursts in public, but because these incidents are emblematic of a bigger societal issue taking place across the nation, and it has to be checked.
My friend, my big homie, attorney at law, Benjamin Crump.
I just want to thank you, man. Educated, articulate brothers like yourself speak truth to power. It makes a great difference in changing the landscape in America. So
listen, no matter what you do, don't allow the politics of ideology to evaporate the soul that still exists inside of you. They don't stop, I don't stop. Racism won't stop, I won't stop. Systemic bias won't stop, I won't stop. People still need health care, so I won't stop. People still need criminal justice systems reform, so I won't stop. You won't stop either. All right, welcome back. Always good to be with you. All right, we got some comments. I'll read as many as I can. This is, I think, BS 1954. Doctor, you're right. I had a classmate in the 6th grade who shot up from 5'1", I think, to 6 feet. In 1 year. Every time we played basketball game, the other coaches would complain that we were bringing in kids from the high school. Yeah, the coach was really cool though. He would say the same thing every time. Here's his name if you want to protest. Go down to City Hall, get a copy of his birth certificate, and I see you in court. And they always shut up. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Yep. Love AT White Girl. We need to segregate people like her from having a voice in schooling. There you go. Okay. Disgraced, as described by many. Gilbert, creator, Scott Adams, dies of prostate cancer. And a reminder of what happened. What's the negative part of this? And then we'll get into the narrative, Judy.
So if nearly half of all blacks are not okay with white people, according to this poll, not according to me, according to this poll, that's a hate group. That's a hate group. And I don't want to have anything to do with them. And I would say, based on the current way things are going, the best advice I would give to white people is to get the hell away from black people. Just get the away. Wherever you have to go, just get away. Because there's no fixing this. This can't be fixed. So I think it makes no sense whatsoever as a white citizen of America to try to help black citizens anymore. It doesn't make sense. It's no longer a rational impulse. And so I'm gonna back off from being helpful to black America because it doesn't seem like it pays off. Like I've been doing it all my life, and the only outcome is I get called a racist.
Put him up full man. I have a tradition in my faith tradition where we do not disparage those who have passed on to whatever their next evolution may be. And that is a tradition I will still hold while giving you the fact. The creator of Dilbert, Scott Adams, passed away of prostate cancer. We remember the footage of him talking about he would no longer help black people. And back then I said something like, it's not about you helping black people, but if bigotry will get out the way and stop hindering black people, that's all the help that's required. Scott Adams has died at the age of 68. Adams first published Dilbert, a comic strip that was satire, white collar satire, 1989. The comic strip became popularized in the 1990s. Dilbert was pulled from wide circulation, however, after Adams decided to degrade black people in 2023. It was his 2023 rant. Back in May of 2025, Adams said on a YouTube live stream that former President Joe Biden's diagnosis of an aggressive form of prostate cancer that has spread to his bones prompted him to share his own. Quote, I have the same cancer that Joe Biden has. I also have prostate cancer that has also spread to my bones, but I've had it longer than he's had it, he says, well longer than he's admitted to having it, end quote. Adams said, I expected to be checking out from this domain sometime this summer, he said, end quote. That's what Adams said. Prostate cancer is the most common cancer amongst men in the U.S. after skin cancer and the second leading cause of cancer death in American men. While it can often be treated successfully and has an overall 5-year survival rate of 97%, that number is much lower in cases where the cancer spread to other parts of the body. Adams did not go into detail about his treatments other than saying the anti-parasitic medications did not work on him. There is no evidence to support the claims that ivermectin, which was falsely touted as a treatment for COVID-19, can treat cancer. As a California resident, he referred to the state's End-of-Life Option Act as an option. Adams previously advocated for passage of the law, which allows doctors to prescribe and aid in dying drugs to certain terminally ill patients. Adams often weighed in on politics in his later years and endorsed President Trump in the 2016 election. He was also opposed to the COVID-19 vaccination and masking per PolitiFact. NPR reported in 2023 that he once questioned the death toll of the Holocaust. During a 2023 episode of his YouTube show, Adams discussed one poll from Rasmussen, a poll that found 53% of Black Americans agreed with the statement. It's okay to be white. A further 26% agreed with it. At 21% specified they weren't sure. Adams said in part, quote, if nearly half all blacks are not okay with white people, which wasn't the gist of the poll, that's a hate group. I don't want to have anything to do with them. And I would say, based on the current way things are going, the best advice I would give white people is to get the hell away from black people. Now, I'm sure a poll, I would just assume a poll did not create that sentiment or that ideology. One poll would not do that. That seemed to be deeply held. All right, Jamie, thoughts here?
First and foremost, and this is the first time I've heard those statements, it's not from him specifically. It's not the first time I've heard the notion of helping black people. We need to stop helping black people, or I do this to help black people. Where is all this help? What help is Dilbert doing to us? Right? He says, stop helping black people. I know he's dead now, so he definitely has stopped helping all kinds of people. But what help was he giving us, and what help does he think we require? And I'll say, as to the suggestions he made that black or white people should just stay the hell away from black people. If you're the type of person to espouse similar things to Dilbert's creator there, Scott Adams, I would say continue to take his advice. So if you're the kind of person to think that you are being somehow beneficial to a whole race of people, stay the hell away from me.
Right.
Stay the hell away from me. Take his advice. And I'll on the other side, I'm also not one of those people who thinks racism only works in one direction. I think there are some people who take it a little too far, and I think it's counterproductive to belittle white people for the sake of them being white. I think that's too far in the opposite direction too. We need to do this as a coalition together. We need a collective humanity. And I understand why some, especially people in the older generation, they're leery about folks that don't look like them, because there's been systematic oppression for centuries in this nation and all over the planet, for sure. So I understand why that reaction is there, but we need to, this type of thinking needs to die out on both ends of it. And I think fortunately it is. I will not speak too ill of him as he is deceased, and it's an unfortunate loss of life, but I'm glad that this ideology is not propagating any further.
Well said. Well said. Thoughts and prayers with the family. All right, dear brother. Always a pleasure having you on the program. Tell people how they can follow you, check out your great work.
Likewise, come check me out on Rebel HQ. There's a playlist called Jamie Lowe, because that's my name. And you can follow me on any social media platform at JLow_52.
Thank you, dear brother, as always. All right, remember, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and take care of the planet. Remember, the truth is always indisputable.